what was the word you used to describe like
A conjugation?
conjugate? Yeah, well, conjugate means shortened, doesn't it?
No.
Oh, great. Conjugated words do not count. It must say pirate or zombie in full.
No.
The word you're thinking is abbreviate. Abbreviate shortens the word.
Right, conjugate is change, abbreviate is shorten.
Welcome to the Impromptu Board Gaming Podcast. This is episode 9, How to Build a Collection. I'm your host, Paul.
And I'm David.
And I'm Andrew.
Games we've been playing recently. I recently had the chance to play Starship Captains, designed by Peter B. Hofgaard from Czech Games Edition, CG. It's a parody of Star Trek, and this game really surprised me. When it was first announced, I actually looked it up, and they had a video of the designer demoing it at a con. And I sat through his explanation, and I thought, honestly, my first impression was it was pretty lame. I'm like, oh, that's pretty lame. Doesn't seem like you're doing anything that cool in the game. But then I actually got a chance to play it, and it has this really cool promotion system. So what you start with is you have 3 different officers, 3 different colors, and then a gray cadet. And then with promotion medals, you can promote the gray cadet into one of the 3 colors. Or you can use 3 medals to promote one of the officers into a commander. And if you promote the officer into a commander, the commander, when they take an action, they can either take a double action, or you can take a regular action and then send back one of your subordinate officers of the same color, or a gray cadet. So essentially, you have a system where you can promote your workers, make them more effective overall, and they're twice as effective, which is huge. So if you had like a red officer, you would send them into the queue to do whatever mission you're sending them on. And you either ping it twice, or you could send down a lower ranking red officer or a gray cadet, and then basically make them available again to go on more missions and do more actions. So it's a real big efficiency game to promote your officers. At first, I honestly, from the preview video, I thought it seemed pretty lame. I actually played it though, and it seemed really cool. Like, it really played really interesting. And it's only 4 rounds, and I think that's really my only complaint with it. It feels like once you get your engine going, you pretty much have to stop. But other than that, like kind of getting used to the pacing, I thought it was pretty good overall.
The promotion system, not only does that sound really fun, but that's a huge flavor win too, to be able to recall one of the lower ranking officers in the same color to then do something else. That stood out. That was cool.
Well, I think also I played this game at BGG Con 2022, and I think Paul is actually leaving out the most important part for me in that, like, there's a actual manipulation aspect going on with your available officers, where what these people that are being demoted, like you're sending back, actually go into essentially a queue, and this queue slides so that the people in front are available. And when I say slide, it literally slide. Like, you take it and you move it, and this tactile feel is actually a lot of fun, I found.
Okay, I was trying to keep this short, but since it's David's favorite part, I'll go ahead and explain it. So essentially in the game, you start with 7 workers. 2 of every color, red, blue, and yellow, and then 1 gray cadet. To start the game, 1 of every color is in a worker queue. And then in your available pool is 1 of every color and the gray cadet. So every time you take an action, what you do is you take your workers from your available pool and send them into this queue. And when you send them into the queue, you basically, set up a line, and you're incentivized to use all your workers. Because in subsequent rounds, the last 3 workers you send into the queue won't come back to you. But everybody else in front of them, they all come back to you. So you have to kind of be a little careful as far as which people you send in what order, because it'll affect what you'll get back in future rounds. And this gets more and more tricky as you get more and more workers. So the sliding effect David's talking about is when you slide the workers back down into your available pool. Apparently that's very fun. Just to be clear, there's no demoting in the game. What he's talking about is when you send them back because a promoted officer goes up. You take a commander, which has been promoted from an officer, and you send it into the queue. If there's another figure of the same color but lower rank, so not promoted, you can send them back to your available pool. Or you can use the commander to take a double action. So not all actions can be doubled, but if you can't double an action, you can always send a lower ranking officer of the same type back to the worker pool. Or you can send the cadet back. And sometimes you might want to send the cadet back because you can also use a promotion medal to promote them into the color you want. So you can get them to do a specific type of action.
So I did like the game myself. The general consensus for me, which I kind of agree with, is that the thing you described, which you were most enamored with, obviously, is the promotion system and that whole thing. I thought that was really cool. My problem with the game is I found the general board and the quest to like do the missions and other things. It's really just you're on a board, you just go to a space, and then you can do the thing there, and that's pretty much it. There wasn't much interesting on the board for me while playing the game. I was more enamored with the promotion system as Paul described, but I feel like the rest of the game just felt kind of generic.
It sounds like thematically, the actual like board spaces didn't really stand out.
Yeah, basically. I like the humor in the game. They said it was just a parody of Star Trek specifically, and also like sci-fi in general. But ultimately, I felt like the theme didn't do a lot for me other than the humor.
I think it's designed to be sort of a humorous parody in that your ship starts very damaged, and then one of the key functions of the officers is to repair the ship. So the blue officer, other than completing missions, the blue officer's main function is basically repair the ship, and it's pretty easy to get the ship damaged. So the whole you have this kind of weird feeling where there are a ton of damage tokens on your ship, and you're constantly having to fly around, maybe accrue more damage, and you have to constantly balance repairing the ship to actually run efficiently. The red guy is navigate the board and then complete missions, and the yellow guy is, what's the yellow guy do again? It was get techs. Get techs that you can add to your ship, and those are basically special abilities that you can employ, which are fine, and complete missions on the board. I think David's right. The board play is pretty generic. There wasn't a lot to do on the board. It was more like, okay, there are these missions on the board. What specific combination of workers do I need, and how do I manage those combinations in order to, complete as many missions as possible? Because that's how you score points mostly.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement there.
I'm not sure how you would improve it a lot. You can write more jokes onto the mission cards, but it's not like you're doing. Yeah, you do the missions, you do get rewards, but it's pretty straightforward. It's not super complicated. So for its weight, I think it's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Like I said, the ship is really interesting, so that I feel that kind of carries the game. It would just have to be something there just had to be more tactics, something that's more interesting to do on the board rather than just go to a place and stop. There's a weird rule I'd like to highlight. Try quickly though, but it's sort of weird. Like most of these games, because you're kind of competing with other players, and if you both want the same mission, it's a race to get there first. And that can be exciting. But there's this weird rule where if you get to a spot, it's not like you do the mission right away. You can do it on a later turn. So you could go to a spot, upgrade your ship a few times, and then do the mission later. Or, this is rule where people, if you're on a spot, people can't also move to the spot and then do the mission before you. Whoever gets to the spot first has priority to the mission. just indefinitely until they either do it or leave the spot. And that felt just kind of weird.
That is very strange.
What? That's Starfleet, man. You don't have ships doubling up on a mission. You just get there first and say, "Hey, we call dibs."
We call dibs. We'll do it 3 years later.
Hey, don't question how long it takes my team to get a mission done. Now, yeah, that is a little bit weird as far as like worker placement mechanics, but I think, if you go thematically, you're all part of the same federation. Obviously, you wouldn't double up on a mission. If someone else got there first, they just got there first.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it could make sense thematically. It just felt game-wise, it killed a lot of the tension or just intrigue of the game, perhaps.
So that was Starship Captains. David, what have you been playing recently?
So a game I've been really excited about because I played it once at BGGCon last year, 2023. I'm not sure if it's released yet as of time of this recording, which is late March, but it's definitely released on Board Game Arena. So I've gotten to play The Veil of Eternity a few times now on Board Game Arena, and I've talked about it before in person. I don't think I've talked about it on the podcast, so I'll give a quick summary. It was essentially my favorite game I played at BGGCon last year, and the reason why is it's basically, in a nutshell, Seasons, which is the game that came out about 10 years ago, which I really liked, but I also found to be too long, too bloated, and a little too random. It's essentially Seasons condensed into like a 45-minute game.
Holy crap! I gotta try this.
Yeah, and even quicker on Board Game Arena because all the shuffling and stuff is done for you. And how it works is basically there's 4 colors of cards, and each turn a number of cards equal to the number of players times 2 is placed on the board. There's a snake draft. So the first person drafts the first card, you go to the last person, then the last person drafts around, and then you go back. So 2 cards in that order. And then after the snake draft, each person takes their turn, which is each card that you drafted, you can either put into your hand or sell it for money. And the value of the value of the card is based on the color it is. Then, for all the cards in your hand, you can play it. Well, that's it. You have to pay the cost and play it, or just keep it in your hand and not play it, obviously. But you can only have as many cards in front of you as the round you're in. So if it's the 3rd turn of the game, you can only have 3 cards in front of you max. This is very familiar to people that have played Seasons. And then you go until either 10 rounds pass or somebody gets 60 points. And so that's it. So the game is much shorter than the Seasons comparatively. And it's all about trying to draft cards and get these ridiculous combos to score you a ton of points to get you over that 60-point threshold. It's also got this really interesting mechanic idea. Like Seasons, you're going to run out of room. You want the rule about having as many cards in front of you as the level of the round is very important because there's a lot of cards with really cool abilities, but they're one-time use. So if you play them, you get this great ability, which probably gets you a lot of points, but now the card is stuck in front of you, taking up a spot that you could use for other things. There is a way to pay to remove cards, but it gets more expensive as the game goes on, etc. But that's the beauty of the game, I find. There's a lot of intrigue. You're trying to draft these combos, and if you get a great combo, great. Do it and push to get that 60-point threshold. If you're unable to make anything work, well, the game isn't that long. You tried, restart, try again, probably. I personally can't really recommend it enough especially if you like combo-based games and drafting games. And like I said, it's available on Board Game Arena right now if you want to try it out. And it sounds like Andrew is very interested in doing that very soon.
Yeah, that sounds really fantastic. I really enjoyed Seasons. I played Seasons twice. That was really cool. Thought about buying it, but well, that'll actually be our main topic, I think. So I can save that story for later. But I was newer to board games at the time when my friend showed me Seasons, and it was cool seeing the name Seasons reflected in the mechanic. And I thought it was cool how you drafted dice in Seasons to sort of get your resources to play your cards.
Right, and you also had your 9 cards at the start, and you set them up in 3 bunches. So yeah, it just kind of took a while. But the worst part about seasons, like I was saying, is if you had your 9 cards and you're like, man, this isn't very good. I guess I'll make the best of it. But this is 2 hours later. Yeah, it wasn't very good. That's not a good feeling. Whereas in the Veil of Eternity, the game's like 45 minutes ish, assuming no one plays incredibly slow. And so, yeah, it's not as bad when you try, it doesn't work. You're like, okay, well, at least it didn't take that long.
Yeah, I got a chance to play this too a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good, pretty fun. There's sort of two routes you can go. You can get cards that score you points every turn, or you can get some cards that create some kind of combo that turns explosive and score a whole bunch of points on one turn. And you're kind of doing a little both. You're kind of opportunistically looking out for what can combine well with what you already have, and really, ideally, you want to do both. Right, you want to score a few points every turn until you hit that big combo, and then score a whole bunch of points all at once too. But I like that sort of back and forth, and you're kind of balancing which one to do. Because obviously, like something that scores you something every turn gets less and less valuable towards the end of the game. And then building that uh, explosive combo that scores you a bunch all at once is something that you build up to and really has a nice sort of progression that really feels really fun in the game.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. Personally, really enjoyed this game. I recommend it highly, and I think it's worth trying out for pretty much most players.
I'm guessing it goes up to 4 players.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, Andrew, what have you been playing recently?
I've been playing. So I actually finally got to try out Everdell Farshore, or maybe just Farshore and then the Everdell tag on there. Anyways, essentially it's like a sort of revised base game version of Everdell. So Everdell is one of those fun worker placement tableau building games that I'm pretty sure I've talked about on here before, and which has a bunch of expansions. But Farshore, I think, is a cool sort of base game alternate that changes some rules. It's essentially the core is still Everdell that you know and love if you enjoy Everdell, but they made some changes to the rules to sort of speed up the game and sort of smooth things out. In some ways, it's more complex in that they added a few things to care about, like what type of cards you play, but they also simplify things by just making it easier for you to get started in the game. I had a really cool time. So one of the main differences is that in Farshore, one of your workers is sort of captaining the ship, and you, over the course of the game, you have the opportunity to move the ship around, and moving the ship around gets you points. One of the main ways to move the ship around is each season there are these tiles that essentially tell you card type and sort of like what symbol. And if you play a card that matches one of those symbols, you can move your ship. If you play a card that matches both symbols, you move the ship 2 spaces, etc. So that's what I mean by sort of pay some more attention to what cards you're playing on any given round.
So they added a incentive structure then. That's cool.
And how it sort of speeds things up is in original Everdell, there's a mechanic where certain cards, certain constructions, had a specific critter that would let you play for free. In Everdell Farshore, any building can play any critter of the same symbol for free, but you can only use this power 3 times throughout the whole game. So it's a fun way to sort of jumpstart things early if you want, or you can obviously save it later on to play more expensive cards for free. How you use it is up to you, but that freedom was, I think, a really nice touch as well. And also by only having one of your 6 workers be captaining the boat, it also slightly shortens the game. Right, that 6th worker is potentially extra time, extra resources. Overall, yeah, I've only played it once, but I had a fantastic time playing it, and would happily play it again.
How do you feel it compares to the original?
I'm inclined to say it's better, but maybe it's just because I was like so pleasantly surprised at how that first game went.
Well, that's not that surprising, right? They made the first game, see how it was received by the public, and then you can make improvements on, whatever information you gathered.
Right, and again, I do really like how much freer you are in terms of what cards you can play for free, but only use it 3 times the whole game. I think that's a cool. I thought that was a great change.
Yeah, I thought that was a really great improvement.
Just for clarification, the official name on Board Game Geek is Everdell Farshore.
Yeah.
Even though on the box, the Everdell is very tiny and hard to see near the cloud, just for what it's worth. You mentioned, so I haven't played the game or know much about it, but you did mention moving a ship around, and that intrigued me, although I don't think you really elaborated on what purpose this has.
Oh, moving the ship around is another source of points.
Oh, okay.
It's basically like a track, and you just keep going up the track, and then it scores points and gives like small rewards.
Yeah, every now and then it gives you a bonus resource as well.
Yeah.
So if I played original Everdell, which I have, this game would be like super familiar then, or
Yes. Yeah.
okay.
Yes. They even if you get a copy, on the very back of the rules book, they have like a summarized list of changes from original Everdell to Everdell Farshore, and the changes are very simple. It's basically everything I just said. The highlights: you have a worker moving the ship around, the 3 times per game of playing a creator for free, and I think the last bit is achievements changed a little bit. So in the base game, there are a few spots on the board where if you had like X number of a given card type, you send a worker there, claim the achievement, and once it's been claimed, no one else can get it. In this game, multiple people can get it. Yeah, so multiple people can get it, and they score a little bit differently. It's worth more if you get it first, stuff like that. But that's like a relatively minor change. In terms of rules, the core is all the same.
All right, interesting. I'll have to look more into this then.
I really liked how they improved. I don't know if "improved" is the word. How they changed the scoring for the set collection. So in the original game, it was they had these fun titles. It might be called like the judge and jury, and then you might need the courtroom, the judge, and the queen or something. And then if you get that combination, you can score that set. I forget exactly what it was called. It was like a achievement.
Yeah, it's like a special or like unique achievement, something like that.
Like thematically, I thought that was better overall, but mechanically, it was like everyone's hunting for the same thing. You don't know if you get it. If one person gets it, no one else can do it. I don't know. Overall, it was a little like luck of the draw as far as who would get it. Here, they changed it to a set collection element. If you do it first, you score a little more points. The game I played, I went for that set collection, and I think multiple players have to go for it. I scored like 60 points because I was the only one to go for it. So they've created this set collection element where people have to compete. You can't just let one person hog the set collection, or the increase in level for the set collection is exponential. So you need at least two players, preferably all 4 players, kind of competing for those achievements at the end, because you can't let one person basically dominate it. If you do, they're just going to score so many points that there's no way you can catch up to them. And I thought that was a better way to execute that, because it made it a little more competitive in getting them. And then there's no theme to it, unfortunately. But at the very least, everyone can participate and potentially score more points. So I thought that was an improvement mechanically, but not thematically.
Yeah, they actually got rid of the sort of unique achievements that cared about the specific cards entirely, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. They replaced it with the first one to hit like 5 of one type, I think, is how it goes. 5 of one type. Yeah, well, 5 of one type of critter and or location. Because I think it's just based on number of symbols, and then whoever hits that number of symbols gets to the achievement first.
Gets access to go into the space to get the achievement, yeah.
But yeah, I think overall, Farshore's more streamlined game, a little better incentive structure, and then the scoring's a little more interesting overall. But I think the original maybe just better themed overall, because it's just cuter and funner, and they really take a more personal touch to naming everything in a fun way. All right, I guess that's going to do it for games we've been playing recently. Today's discussion topic: how to build a collection. More or less, it's more general than that, I guess. It's really how do you pick which games you buy. I thought we could start with something basic like how do you pick something from Kickstarter? Obviously, a lot of board games get sold on Kickstarter these days, and there's very little first-hand information for the game itself. So it's really tough to decide what games to get or not get. Andrew, I thought you'd probably be the better go-to source for this, given you have the smallest collection of the three of us, and because you're a lot better at picking and choosing things not to get as opposed to picking things to get.
Yeah. Yeah, so how I buy games, it's easy. Pull out my spreadsheet and whatever else. No. There are several factors I consider. Basically, the first one is like it has to check a lot of boxes. Will I enjoy this game? Will I play it often enough with people to make it worth it? Do other people I know have this game or not, or are planning to get this game or not? And then, is it worth the price as well? Because I am stingy baby, as established. I think some combination of those is what goes into whether I buy it or not. Oh, also if I feel it's unique. I think those are the factors I look for. It basically has to tick all of those, or enough of those, for me to want to get something. If I'm... Yeah, generally I try to play things first if possible for buying, generally. So most of the games I played it at some point and was like, oh wow, this is great. I think I do want this, for the most part. There are a few where it wasn't like that, but those have worked out, luckily, because I have a good sense of what I like and enjoy in a game. Slash, like, other people are willing to play it, blah, blah, blah.
Do you watch the gameplay video?
If it's something I haven't seen before, yeah, I suppose I would watch a gameplay video. I think that would help. But I don't know if it's... I mean, that depends. Like, I feel like I have a very good sense of what I consider to be fun and what I enjoy in a game, such that I feel like if I just read the rules and stuff, that's usually enough for me.
Oh, do you usually read the rulebook when it's posted by the Kickstarter?
Yeah, I'll read the rules, maybe, right? Some combination. Yeah, maybe a video would be helpful, but sometimes it can be slow and off pace, and sometimes reading it works as well.
I'm kind of the reverse. I could read the rulebook, but I don't feel like that gives me a very good sense of how the game plays. I usually watch the gameplay video, so if your Kickstarter doesn't even have a gameplay video, just forget it. I won't even consider supporting your thing. Like, you need to at least bare minimum have a gameplay video, and then it comes down to how well is the game explained. Do I have a good sense of how this game plays? And then it gets to the I'll consider it category. If it's lacking in any of those, I just flat out reject it and move on.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
David, do you have any red flags or when it comes to supporting stuff?
Yeah, at this point, I'm so negative. It's so terrible. But if it is on Kickstarter, it's a red flag for me now.
Ooh.
Wow.
Straight up.
So many games get sold on Kickstarter. You're saying you just reject them all?
Yes, if it is on Kickstarter, it is a red flag. And I've just been burnt. Pre-orders in general, it'd have to be like a major exception for me to consider it at this point, because there's just several factors. First off, like you're saying, if it doesn't have a gameplay video or instructions, there's no way I'll back it, period. Because it's just too much of a... I don't care what you promise or what you say the game is. I need to see it proven, because otherwise you're just blowing smoke. And two, I'll essentially check the release date as well. I'm not kickstarting anything anymore that takes longer than a year, or that's projected to be longer than a year, because there's just too many production issues that can go wrong, companies or things that overproject their capabilities. And there's too many horror stories on that.
Yeah, I think Stegmeyer or Stonemaier Games is known for their turnover time is like 2 months. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Actually, that just happened recently. I bought a copy of Wormspan. I thought it was going to come later the year. It came earlier this month, and I was like, geez, it took it was about 2 months. About 2 months from when I ordered it to when it came. And I was like, wow. Huh, it's not even out in stores yet.
They're known as sort of the standard. Stegmeyer obviously knows how to run a Kickstarter, and then
Well, this wasn't Kickstarter specifically.
clearly already developed the game,
Yeah.
and the only thing you're really waiting on is printing and shipping.
Right. I mean, this wasn't Kickstarter exactly. This was a pre-order. Like this is on their website. But for other Kickstarters and stuff, like Scythe came very well, other stuff like that. Yeah, but for most companies though, they either it always gets delayed or always, and some companies even sometimes they'll even like ask for more money later.
Right, that has been happening.
Yeah, and stuff like that. And I'm like, so now unless you're a highly reputable company with the designer I want and the game has all the other stuff I said, I'm not backing on Kickstarter. Period. It's just too silly. And on top of that, again with the year thing, like I may want the game now. If it comes out more than a year later, I've probably forgotten about it, and it arrives. I'm like, and either I'm like, oh, I forgot about this, hooray, or like, oh, I forgot about this. What was I thinking? Or, all right, we'll just see what I was thinking a year ago because I don't remember.
Yeah.
It's just too long in the future to really have a handle on what I'm going to want, which is also kind of a statement on the state of the board game industry in general. So for me, Kickstarter is, unless it's a very rare circumstance, it's a no-go.
Alright, let's move on from Kickstarter. Oh, I just got a package. I have no idea what it is. That would be hilarious if it was from Kickstarter. Oh, yeah, I just got Galactic Renaissance.
Oh, okay, exciting. Hey, this is right up the...
Yeah.
Paul, why did you buy this board game?
So, okay. Yeah, I remember the Kickstarter campaign for this. This was last year, and they had a gameplay video of how to play it. And I was watching the gameplay video of, I think it was like a 4-player game, which is pretty rare. Usually, gameplay videos are 2-player, maybe 3 players, if that's like the minimum count. And they actually had 4 players playing it, and this is like, there's a little deck building in it, and you're just sort of, yeah, it's been a long time since I watched it. But I was impressed by the gameplay video, and I thought, oh, this is something I would enjoy. And I really liked the pieces, which is sort of half the reason to get anything from Kickstarter, because generally the miniatures and stuff the components are really well made. And let me see if I remember. That's so funny. During recording, receives a game.
From that you got from Kickstarter?
I think it is from Kickstarter.
It's perfect. Leave this in.
Yeah, we'll see how.
Incredible.
Yeah, I know.
Incredible.
Galactic Renaissance. Let's see. Okay. It's from the designer of Inish.
Oh, yes. It's a great game.
Yeah, so it's it's by Matago. So Matago also published Yucatan and Kemet.
Yucatan, also a great game.
So those are 2 games I really enjoyed. I thought the company was very reputable, so I went ahead and supported this last year, and it just got here today. So good. I don't know. I guess I don't mind the waiting as much, but that is a very long turnover.
All right. Well, in the next podcast, we'll probably have a update on whether or not it was worth it. We'll see.
Okay. Why don't we move on from Kickstarter? Do you guys have any hard and fast rules as far as how you pick games for whatever reason? Like, do you guys feel like price is the biggest consideration, or who the designer is, who publishes it? What do you guys think?
I listed all of mine right from the get-go, so it should be one of y'all.
Oh, okay. I mean, I have quite a lot. There's no one criteria. That being said, yeah. So first, other things you mentioned, price is definitely a factor. In general, it's not a factor in whether or not I'm interested in the game, but I can definitely be priced out of a game. I can't think of a situation where I'd be like, oh, I kind of want this game. Oh, that's way less than I expected. Maybe not. It doesn't really work that way. It's like, oh, why is it so cheap? There's something wrong with that. Beware. But the other way around, yeah. I mean, like, can I justify spending $120 on this game? Not unless I've I know for a fact I'm going to get it played.
Oh yeah, of course.
And that's the other factor. Do I think I'm going to get the game played? Kind of a funny thing to say for someone with such a large shelf of shame, but it is a factor. Like, I didn't buy any game expecting not to play it. There were games I've bought where it's like, I'm probably not going to get this played, but I'm hopeful.
Antiquity.
Yeah, in fact, I'm looking at it right now. And I'm hopeful I will get it played, but I like having it in my collection. I do look at it, like the mechanics and stuff sometimes, and talk about it. So, it's definitely worth it in that regard. It's something I wanted to buy, and I'm happy I bought it. I just haven't played it. But maybe one day. Also, nowadays, like, there's just so many board games. So I feel like uniqueness is a factor. If I have another game that scratches the same itch, then I don't really need this new one.
So you're a Jones theory purist?
I'm familiar with Jones theory.
This is from that's from this is like old school. There's a guy who was in this podcast and his name was Jones, and basically said you don't need two worker placement games in your library. And so if a game just feels exceptionally the same, you just don't need it, and you need to cull down your collection to the point of getting just the best of a category and then calling it a day, and that's it. And I thought, well, you can have two worker placement games that don't feel the same, that don't even feel similar, but they're essentially, it's undeniable that both are worker placement games. How strict are you with rules like that?
Stricter in other ways. I feel like it's not unique in terms of mechanic, like these are two worker placement games, but rather just my own opinion on how they make me feel. Like, when I'm playing this game, I'm making these types of decisions, this kind of stuff, and I'm considering this, right? That kind of stuff, not just if it's worker placement or not. Because I can even have. I'm trying to think of an example. I'm certain I have two copies of the same game, but with different themes. I think actually the easiest example, it's not exactly the same game, but it's pretty much the same game, and I have Betrayal at House on the Hill, and then I have Betrayal at Baldur's Gate. And they're essentially the same game, but one is D&D themed and one is horror themed. And, depending on the group I'm with or just how I feel, that can make a big difference.
That is very true.
But it's essentially the same game. But I'm happy I own both of them. So there is that. But just be honest, if you don't think a game is necessary because you think another game is similar, or even just you'd rather play that, even if it's a worse game, then just be honest and realize, yeah, you don't need that new game. That all being said as well, I'm also a big proponent of like marginal improvements, essentially. So a game can be really good, and then another game which is slightly better might come out, and it's the exact same, same itch, all the stuff we're talking about, as opposed to being unique as a brand new game, but also perfecting a tried and true formula that I don't think gets enough credit. And it can be hard to justify because the game is very similar, but just something just being a little bit better sometimes is what puts it over the top.
It's so hard to measure, like, what is perfected.
It is hard to measure, yeah. I thought this is going to be a very personal feel.
Yes, that too. I feel like a lot of discussion sometimes boils down to people are very dismissive very quickly, like, oh, that's just that other game, and that's it.
Oh, that's just some other game in a different skin kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. That it's very dismissive. But sometimes it's true, and you really don't need it. Other times it's like it's similar, but it's better. Or there's just that je ne sais quoi that puts it over the top, even though, like, objectively, like, statistically, you could probably compare them very similarly. It's tricky, but it boils down to your own personal opinion. Just think about it carefully. Think about it objectively, or try as objectively as you can, but also incorporate your own feelings on whether or not you want this game, or whether this game is worth buying. That's really what it comes down to.
All right, let me pose a couple of scenarios for you. Let's say you have Twilight Imperium 3rd edition. Do you get 4th edition? Knowing that eventually, there's going to be a 5th edition.
Well, we'll see. This may vary for other people, but for me a factor is if I upgrade a game, whether or not I can move the old version.
So if you could sell the old version,
Yes,
Good point.
that is a factor. But even without that factor, it's like, will I play it? If you have third edition and you play it like once a year, then it's harder to justify upgrading to fourth edition. But if you play it like once a month with a group of friends like all the time, or you just know you're going to play it, let's say 10 plus times, that's usually a good indication or a good amount to justify buying the board game, then yeah. I don't think there's ever been a case where someone has regretted buying a game that they've played more than 10 times.
Right.
that's probably true.
That is a good metric.
Yeah, so you can make your own judgments on whether your group or whoever you're playing with or whoever you're hoping to play with will get those kind of plays in. And unquestionably, if you know you're going to get 10 plus, then it's almost a no-brainer. If it's less than that, then you can make your own judgments based on that.
A big part of it is just you have to be the advocate for your game and like push for it to get played.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, what's interesting about the Twilight Imperium 3 versus 4 upgrade example is that, like, if you're already playing Twilight Imperium 3, presumably you have a playgroup ready to go and who would be willing to play the upgraded version.
Presumably.
Like, yeah, that's another factor too, right? But like having the playgroup, knowing that you have a playgroup ready to play and like willing to play without you needing to do like extra work to get them on board with playing, like that's it's really nice to have that, like, one of those boxes checked off, essentially, that you know that people would be interested in playing.
If you only played it once a year, do you feel it's justified to upgrade to fourth edition then? I get what you guys are saying. You guys, if you play it every month and this is like a better version, it seems like that's an easy call. You make the upgrade. But what if you only play it like once a year?
I think that depends on how much my playgroup would like it at that point.
Yeah, I think that's up to the person. Like, objectively, it sounds like you can't really justify it, but I certainly have had games where I expect to play it like once a year, and I can justify it based on, just the experiences and how much it means to me.
Yeah, I guess I would talk to the group and see if they wanted to say like pitch in on buying it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah.
I guess just mitigating cost overall. If you're playing this 6 players and let's assume the game is $120, that's basically everyone pitches in $20, which is way less bad than one person pitching in $120. $120 game is a really big investment, but you blow $20 and then it's an excuse for you and your friends to get together once a year for like 8 to 12 hours to play this game. I mean, that seems much more justifiable.
How long are your Twilight Imperium games going? You're playing Advanced Civ at that point.
Yeah, I was honestly thinking of third edition, which was longer than fourth edition. Fourth edition is like we've played that together. That's like 6 to 8 hours.
Yeah.
And I remember third edition is longer than that because fourth edition streamlines the trade commodities, which really moves the game along a little better. I feel like.
It also streamlines the tech tree, which is one of the biggest things, but that's another discussion. Yeah, I like how we're now sort of shifted into tips on how to buy more games, mitigate the cost. We've moved on from how to build a collection. Yeah.
It's a good way to do it.
What really made me want to cover this topic, which is kind of funny, is I own officially, according to Board Game Geek, 126 games. And recently, I just tried to find an old game that I wanted to show one of our friends, and I couldn't find it. I got a little pissed at myself. I was like, how the hell do I not know where this game is? And I kind of realized, like, I may have too many games now. So it came down to, like, how do you build a collection, and then how do you cull a collection would be the two topics I wanted to do. And this was sort of the first part, like, okay, how do you build one, and then how do you cull it over time?
Well, I find a good way to cull a collection is essentially, or at least not get too big a collection in the first place, is to not keep the free games you get from convention.
Oh yeah, that's true.
You're not gonna play them. Don't kid yourself.
Naturally.
I think I've maybe gotten 2 games from from conventions. I've been to 3 or 4 conventions, I've picked up at least 2 per convention, so it's like 8 games. And there's maybe 2 that I've wanted. One was Takenoko.
Oh, nice.
So not sorry, it's not Takenoko. It's I'm thinking of Tokaido. One was Tokaido,
Oh, nice.
and one was I think it was Aquasphere. I remember enjoying it, but I honestly haven't played that game in like more than a year, so it may fall into your on the chopping block category.
One of my favorite things is when like Aquasphere was free one year at Board Game Geek Con, and then like the next year at the flea market, I'll see someone selling it for like $20, and I'm like,
Wasn't that just free?
They didn't have enough fun. They didn't get to play with people.
Hey man, things happen over time. I mean, the market fluctuates.
not for Aquasphere.
Okay, so how big a factor does price go into in purchasing game? More specifically, how much is too much to spend on a game? Do you feel?
For me, I think it really depends on how much I'm expecting to play said game and or how much I'd enjoy it. So, see like Kickstarter and big buys and whatnot. My friend and I, we bought the Divinity Original Sin, the board game, which was on Kickstarter, and this is a really big purchase. We went for like the deluxe edition, so it was like 220-ish. Well, we split it, which helped. There were so many delays on this. They essentially like redesigned, revamped the game as well, like during the Kickstarter process. So it was very late. We waited like 3 years, but we have gotten to play it, and we've had a lot of fun with it.
3 years? That would kill David.
Yeah. I think it was worth it though.
It wouldn't kill me. I would just have no memory of it whatsoever.
Yeah, it was worth it though, as they like made the changes and they showed updates. Like, okay, this is gonna be good, and it has been. But like, that's something I ordinarily would not have spent that much. But knowing that I was splitting the cost with a friend and that we would definitely play it, like, helped a lot. But that is like a huge outlier for me.
Okay, so let's get specific here. What's the most you've ever spent on a game, David?
Ooh, good question. Not that much.
I feel like 220 is probably Andrew's upper limit there, and he split it. So like that's really 110
I almost spent 300,
Ooh, nice.
but I didn't.
on what? What were you considering for 300?
It was Mega Civilization,
Oh, okay, I can see that.
and that's the once a year game because that game takes 12 hours plus, and and it supports up to 18 players. So it was during it like 15 years ago or so. It was during a time when we had a group that would meet like once a year and play this 12-hour game, and we loved it. And then this is the super deluxe ultimate version of that game that came out around that time. I'm guesstimating these years. I'm probably off, but the point is, at the time it would have been worth it. And then, yes, but I didn't do it. Ultimately, it wasn't necessary, and luckily, probably wouldn't have been because we didn't really. The group kind of fractured after that,
Good call. Nice.
right? Oh, bullet dodged. But more to the point of the question is like, I don't think there is really an answer to that question. It's really up to the individual because board gaming is already basically an expensive hobby,
Is it?
and so yes. Well, not compared to what auto racing or something, but like
Yeah. Well, you're comparing it to other hobbies. I mean, you're not comparing it to like it's an entertainment, value hobby, and you're comparing it to other things of similar note. I mean, if you compare it to movie going, I think board games overall you spend less than if you went to movies.
what if you just watch movies at home for free? Government not watching. I mean, they already knocked on your door, but like maybe I'm in trouble now. Regardless, the point being more so like it's really up to the individual and what you can afford.
Well, sure.
The market kind of corrects itself. Is 220 too much for a board game? Well, if people are paying it, then no. We also discussed earlier, I think the solution to that is just if a group of 5 is going to play this game, then instead of you buying it, you can go to the group and see if people will pitch in, and if they won't pitch in, then maybe they weren't as interested as you are, and thus the game wouldn't get played. But if cost is a factor, there are ways to mitigate it, especially in a group setting.
as far as components within a game, how much does that factor into your price calculation?
As in, like, would I spend more for like better components?
Bigger components, more total components, etc. Yeah.
Generally, it doesn't matter for me too much. Though, funnily, there have I think two, maybe no. There's two games where I have spent a bit more to get better quality like tokens, better quality components.
Yeah, in that regard, I think it does factor. Like, if the game is nicer looking and has miniatures and stuff, that raises the price, and that's also why Kickstarter games also they tend to promise these things and jack up the price. But yeah, no, the nicer the game is, the more it should cost. That's just the general baseline, I think. And as Andrew pointed out, a lot of games feature upgrade packs. So, if something is upgraded, it just costs more.
Does that raise your price limit, or are you just going with, nope, it's a case by case basis. There's no real price limit.
Case by case.
It's gonna make me less likely to buy a game. If a game is more expensive because the parts are good, I'll be like, ooh, that has good parts. I need to make sure I want to play this, or I like this game, and then I'll pay for that. As opposed to if it was less, I might just buy the game. Maybe not these days. I do a lot more research when I buy a game for the most part, but in general, does have to justify the higher cost with the gameplay. Or sorry, the gameplay has to justify me buying the game more if it costs more. But I'll understand if it costs more when the components are nice.
Yeah. What David said could be boring. What David said. And like, yeah, I'm generally looking at gameplay first.
Yeah, I guess there's a tiny exception. Sometimes I might just buy a game if it has really nice components like figurines and stuff. If I just like the figurines, if I would have bought the figurines anyway for like that price or something.
Does that happen a lot, or has that happened?
In board games, exceptionally rarely. But the components for Mechs vs. Minions were extremely nice, and it featured some of my favorite characters from the game.
Well, Mechs vs. Minions in particular is kind of an exception to the rule.
Yeah, it was also priced very, very low for what you got.
Yeah, relative to its cost.
But that certainly made me want it a lot more. I could justify it buying it blind, essentially, because there wasn't really much information on it other than it was by Riot, and I was like,
this is probably going to be awesome.
No, there was a big question mark. I had no idea. In fact, I probably would have guessed it sucked. But the components were so nice, and I wanted those figures anyway. I'm like, all right, that helps me justify just going in blind. That's the only real example I can think of. Most board games don't have components that are on the level of like customized figurines, Yeah, I mean, it would certainly help me buy stuff. So if you had Avatar: The Last Airbender game with really cool miniatures in it, I'd be inclined.
There's a co-op game coming out of that soonish. It's on GameFound.
Yeah, that's why it came to mind.
I'm surprised that one doesn't have miniatures for it.
It has little plastic miniatures, but
Oh,
not something that'll be like, oh, I really want those. Like, if the game sucks, I'll just have them on my desk or something.
why do you do that? Just to get this out of my mind, because I mentioned, while we're talking about price and buying games and whatnot, I'd mentioned I'd considered buying Seasons at one point. So it was at a flea market, and I think Seasons was available for like $15-ish or so. And this wasn't too long after I'd first played it. It was like, I would probably, right, like 15, that's a very reasonable price point for me. I enjoyed the game. I know I had friends who'd like it, but I didn't actually think I'd be able to have real opportunities to play the game with people, especially since it was a longer game, had felt a bit more involved, and again, I was newer to board games at the time too. So even though it had a lot of stuff going for it, including a low price point, I still ultimately said no. Like, it's very case by case for me.
Wow, that's some discipline there. We've all had the phenomenon where we played a game, we don't play it very often, and then when we go back to it, we have to more or less relearn it. Now, I've heard a lot of people kind of, they'll reject a game outright if they feel it's too hard to reteach or relearn. How true is this for you guys?
I wouldn't reject the game outright for that reason. It would just mean, I'd only mention this game if I think the playgroup in question would enjoy it. Right? Like, I'm not going to bring out Spirit Island or Gray Trail to folks who aren't as invested in board games. I'm not even necessarily the best at teaching games. Like, some of the games I have, like, I get stuck up on, or I forget certain rules that, like, since I'm so used to playing it I forget that, oh, I have to explain these things to newer players. But I still just go for it, and I hope it works out. And again, I think enough of my play group is willing to also help in with rules too, at least the folks I more regularly play with, such that I can get through it. I don't see it as a problem for me.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly. Like, this has certainly happened, but not to the degree where I feel like I've had to like relearn a game. Exactly, it's more like refresh, right? Could be considered the same thing, but I don't. I think it's obviously less. I feel like I know the game. I just want to make sure I know the game. And like it's just a lot of my favorite games are heavy games, and so I feel like if I feel a game is worth well, okay, I don't know if a game is worth learning when I first play it, but if I play a game, I love it, and then I haven't played in a while, but I want to play it again. If I love a game that much that I want to play it again, then it's going to be worth relearning as well.
It'll be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of a game that I've been like, oh, I really like that game, but it's too hard. I'm not. Yeah,
Right. If you really like the game, like.
and I may be biased. I'm certainly a heavy gamer, but I just can't think of a game that I had the urge to play again, but I didn't have the urge to relearn.
Like if I wasn't willing to relearn the game, then I don't think I would like it that much, right? And then I wouldn't care to get it. I wouldn't care to teach it to other people, stuff like that.
And that could be another criteria for culling your games. If you look at a game and be like, I don't want to relearn this, then yeah, obviously maybe you should go.
That's fair. I mean, that one actually mostly came from John Cox. So clearly, his collection's much larger than any of ours. He is like over 250 regularly, and then usually another 50 to 100 games rotating in and out of his collection. A lot of it's because publishers will send in games for free. He'll buy some on his own, and he started to trade a lot more with other gamers and stuff. So his collection's generally rotating pretty aggressively. And then one of the things he kind of mentioned to me was like, hey, if I can't really remember a game, I don't remember enjoying it enough, I won't keep it. I'll just keep rotating it out. I think this was for a Chinese themed game. Yingzi? It's the old school word for money. Like the ancient word for money essentially was the name of the game, and it was very complicated as I remember. We played it once, and I thought it was okay, but I could kind of see his point, like, oh, this is not worth relearning, or because there's just so many things going on and so many details. And when he got rid of it, I was like, yeah, that's fair. And I wondered, like, oh, is there a game I have that I don't remember well enough to reteach? There might be one out of 100-something games, so...
Well, we can do an update next time. You can check out your collection and see if there's a game you can't remember.
Yeah, honestly, I'm pretty sure I don't know all the rules to Aquasphere.
But would you be willing to relearn them to play again?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a few of the detail stuff. It's not that hard, like I'm pretty confident I know like 80% of the rules, and I'd have to go through and kind of like just look at the turn phases and go through kind of and relearn like, oh, this is what happens in which order, and then it would come back pretty easily from there. Oh, I do have Rising Sun, so I don't think I would. I definitely do not remember all the details of Rising Sun, so that's something.
That could be another discussion later of games that fell off for you. But we can discuss that then. John's an interesting example because he has a YouTube channel, John Gets Games. If you haven't already subbed to it and you're listening to us, go check it out. But because he learns the rules to games so often, because for his channel, he does games so often that I can imagine that a lot of rules, unless it's it's absolute favorite games, a lot of rules just kind of blend together. And it's going to be hard to remember individual rules when you're learning like games so often. And so for that matter, he certainly has a much better interest in games that can be relearned easily.
Right. Yeah.
As opposed to games that are not, since he has to do it so often.
He actually told me once that he sometimes back references his own videos to relearn games.
That's pretty great.
So he has like a archive of of games he's obviously made videos for, and then he just goes back and looks them up and goes, "Oh, is that how that game works?" Right. Thought that was pretty funny.
He has so many videos that sometimes I'll be talking to him and I'll be like, "Hey, you know anything about this game?" Like, and he'll be like, "Yeah, I did a video for that." I'm like, "Oh, damn, I missed it. I didn't see that."
Yeah, that's pretty funny. The last thing was designers and publishers. You guys have designers and publishers. You will what? Buy sight unseen.
Nope.
Yeah.
What was perfect about that moment was you both said it exactly at the same time. No, and yeah, just like right there.
No, I'm kind of more on the interest side at this point. It's almost no, but like, I've had designers in the publishers in the past, which I've bought essentially sight unseen. For a while, it was CGE.
Mm.
Vladia Shavato will still get like I'll probably buy his stuff no matter what, although he hasn't released anything in quite a while. But and then Splotter at this point, just because their stuff is so hard to get if you don't, and I really enjoy their brand of heavy games. But other than that,
Wait, you've never played a Splotter game you didn't like?
let me rack my brain. Actually, let me rack Board Game Geek.
I just mean like there are definitely Splotter games I liked, but there are definitely Splotter games I did not like. Like I thought Antiquity was really good, but not a game I would want to play regularly. So like that's sort of a I recognize how well designed it is, but I would not go out of my way to like try to own a copy kind of thing.
I feel like none of their games I'd want to play regularly. They're just so heavy and involved. But if I had to play games regularly, like Food Chain Magnet for sure, and I've really enjoyed Bus, but I haven't played it that much. But it's really like, yeah, there hasn't been a Splotter game I've played that I've disliked, but I haven't played all their games. I feel like I probably wouldn't like Roads and Boats because it's just too long.
Played Roads and Boats. I liked Roads and Boats. Again, it falls in the same category. I don't want to play it a lot, but I thought it was good and well designed.
I mean, from what I've heard, I'm sure I'll like the game, but I'm still balking at the length, and until I play it, I won't really know.
Yeah, I played 2-player with Pirate Rob, and what you don't realize right away is space to do what you want to do is more important than anything else.
Right.
More important than cost, more important than whatever, because you have to ship things around. So if you don't have your space situated to get things moving around to where you want them to go, it's worth nothing to you. So yeah, space is the consideration, and it's interesting to have the spatial element be the most important consideration as opposed to anything else.
Yeah. But regardless, Splotter is kind of a weird thing in this anyway because they're very niche. They always make heavy games and they release so rarely that it's not like you can't even get burned that often. Even if you didn't like any of their games, it'd be like once every 4 years. If companies and if designers are trying to innovate, then they're going to do things, and eventually there's just going to be something that's either not good or that you don't like. It's kind of hard to just blindly trust based on name alone, even if even if you enjoyed all their stuff for that matter. So, I'll still take a little precaution, but certainly I will be much more invested in a company and designer, based on name that I really like. However, it's not going to be like a sight unseen auto buy, which was the question, but I think in the spirit of it, I'm kind of like I've already got like 2 feet in the door. The door's not closed yet. I'm all the way. I could technically back out, but so I'm not 100% blind, but for the most part, yeah, there are a couple that I will just be heavily invested in.
I feel similarly in that if it's a designer I like, they 100% get my attention, as in they get my consideration.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd have to look at the game itself and gameplay video to see if I really want to buy it. An example of this is one of my favorite designer is Andreas Stedding. And I had the chance to buy, was it Stroganoff? And then I watched the gameplay video of it and I was like, wow, this is too much. And the iconography was kind of weirdly confusing. Like, I think I would pick it up after a while. And the game itself, though, it's the set collection element seemed weirdly obvious to me. It just felt like, okay, you're clearly set collecting. And anything that lets you count the set twice essentially score it more than once, you always go for that. So you collect the whatever it is. It's like I think in the game it was like wolf pelts or something, or it's like certain animals. You set collect it.
Everything's pelts in that game, yeah.
Yeah. You set collect it, and if there are a few ways you can basically like double count your set, and that's pretty much all you go for. There's like I don't know if there's any scoring opportunity that can compete with that. So I was like, this game seems kind of obvious. I don't know if I'm going to get it. Even though it was really nice. It looked very, like, pretty and, like, nice components. And from my favorite designer, I feel like he gets my consideration, but not necessarily the buy.
Did you try Stroganoff?
I haven't played it.
There's a mod for it on Tabletop Simulator. I can show it to you.
Oh, okay. I mean, I try it. I definitely try it. Like, because, nothing's going to beat firsthand experience with it. But I wasn't going to shell out, like, I think it was, $80 or $90 for the Kickstarter?
Oh, I don't remember what the Kickstarter is. I just saw it after.
Yeah, I remember it wasn't cheap, so I was like, whatever. Because, yeah, I've heard some people, they will buy Sight Unseen based on the publisher, which I thought was pretty crazy. I was like, what?
That's such a wide range.
Yeah, you trust the publisher so much, you like everything they put out, and they'll just buy whatever they came out. I was like, really? It sounds crazy to me.
Well, I think there's some, like, CG, I was mentioning CG for a while. I was like that until more recently. But that was back when they were just pretty much Vlada and Vladimir. I think it just depends on how transparent the company is. I think an easy company to do that with would be Stonemaier Games. They're very active. You can get a lot of information on their stuff. And their stuff is always quality. Now, whether or not you like it is another story. But, a company like that is way easier to be a, sight unseen backer than opposed to, I don't know, Wing Games or something.
That's true.
A lot of times, I think there's also a progression arc in a lot of people's collections. Your collection obviously will be tailored to you and what you want to get played. But then another consideration also might be just having games for situations. In most people's collections, they'll always consider a filler game, or at least a couple filler games, a couple party games. Then you have light and heavy strategy. And to make sure you have various games in each category for different player counts. And of course, this also matters more if you plan on hosting or like being the provider of games at situations, as opposed to if you don't need to do that. If you don't need to do that, then obviously you can just have games for you. If you're never playing at your house, then that doesn't matter. But otherwise, if you ever need to fill in for a group for a different situation, those things can be important. And if you're missing a category, it's worth looking into those types of games to like round out your collection, essentially.
Yeah, I agree. That's a bigger factor for me more over the holidays. I'll go and visit family and then various groups of friends, and usually I'm the one bringing games and then have to be the one teaching them, so it's good to have a range of weight and player counts to accommodate any given situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Final thoughts on building a collection. I think the key thing to realize is that there are more great games out there than it will ever be practical to collect. So what it comes down to is really finding the games that you love. Better to have one game that you want to play 10 times than it is to have 10 games that you have no interest in playing twice. Having said that, build your collection slowly. Take your time, if possible, try the game out before you actually buy a copy, and then decide if you really like it enough to add it to your collection. The ultimate limiting factor in any kind of collecting is space for your collection. I mean, that's kind of the rule for anything you might be collecting. So being picky is a good thing. Even if you find a great game, you might not want to buy it right away. Because if it's out there long enough, you could probably get it on a secondary market for cheaper than MSRP. So build your collection slowly, really be sure you like the games, you want the games that you're going to put into your collection. If you're always the one teaching games, maybe get a few games that are a little lighter that you can use to introduce other gamers to, or new gamers too. And then have a variation in player count. Because ultimately, I think you don't really get the value out of a game if you don't play it. Okay, on to our game show segment. David, you'll be hosting this one?
I will, and I prepared a very exciting, or at least I hope it becomes exciting, quiz. I've decided that I'm going to do a little versus. It's Paul versus Andrew, so why not do a little versus themed board game quiz? And so the way this is going to work is I'm going to give you two categories, something versus something, and then both of you independently will tell me which category you think has the higher ranking game on Board Game Geek.
Okay.
And then there will be a bonus point if you can name the highest, what is the highest ranking game of that category that you've chosen as well. That's the gist of it, but we can get more into the rules as we go. So I'll announce the category and explain the what exactly I want while you two think about it. And the first category will be, well, first of all, are you both ready?
Let's do it.
Ready.
First category is, these two have been enemies throughout history for legendary encounters. They are, of course, cats versus dogs, or more specifically, cat versus dog. So, in the entire Board Game Geek library, which category has the higher ranking game? And by that, I don't mean exactly cat themed or dog themed. It has to have the word cat or dog in the title. Also, to further clarify, words with the word in it but shorter, like caterwaul or dogma, stuff like that, that counts. It has the word cat in it, has the word dog in it. But if the word is similar but changed, what's the right word? Like
Conjugated?
yes, then that does not count. So cat and dog are too small to really do that. But if the word were, say, fantasy, and the title was Fantastical Beasts, that would not count because fantasy is not in the word. Also, I will say that I'm not including expansions, essentially, of any type.
Base game only.
Yes. That's fine. Oh, and then the bonus point. So, obviously, I've gone ahead and looked up the highest ranking of each category. So I have the highest game with cat in the title or dog in the title. So whichever category you think has the higher one, you can also tell me what game you think is the highest. And if you get that correct, even if it's not the correct category, like, even if it's not the correct answer for like which has the highest in category, we'll still give you a bonus point. Was that clear? Any clarifications?
No, I think I got it.
All right. Well, Paul, why don't you tell me which do you think, cat or dog, has the higher game on Board Game Geek?
I'm going to say cat.
Okay. And what do you think is the highest cat game?
Isle of Cats.
Okay. Andrew, what have you got for cat versus dog?
Hilariously enough, I have literally the exact same answer.
Interesting. Maybe this category was too easy because not only are you both correct, but you also got the bonus correct.
Woo!
Well, yeah.
I was tempted to say Cat Lady just have something slightly different, but my first thought was Isle of Cats.
Yes, Isle of Cats is currently 131 on Board Game Geek. It is the highest game with cat in the title, although Clank Catacombs is very close. Although that is possibly considered an expansion. I believe it's a standalone expansion, so but luckily it didn't matter because it's not the highest.
Oh, okay. Catacombs, nice. I was wondering if something with Catastrophe would have made it.
Yeah. Or what's that? Catacombs.
Catacombs, Catapult.
Catacombs is like the 200 or 300 or so. Yeah, but I guess Isle of Cats is just too popular. For fun, can either of you think of the highest dog game?
I'm more trying to think of words that contain dog that aren't just dog. So you mentioned Dogma, and then my brain is, I guess, Slumdog? Isn't that the name of a movie or something? Like Slumdog Millionaire?
It is Slumdog Millionaire. Yeah, it won Best Picture, I believe.
Okay, so that's a movie, not a board game, probably.
I will just tell you for brevity that it is just dog, or dogs in this case.
It's just dog, okay.
Like the dog game.
The dog game. Well, Dog Park may eventually,
Dog Park. That's what I was trying to think of. Okay, yeah.
but that's not it. Currently, the highest ranked. You're not going to get this. It's very hard. But maybe someone at home knows. So that's why I'm throwing it out there. The highest ranking dog game currently is Dogs of War at 815.
Oh, Dogs of War. Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to even remember that game, at least for me. Although some people really enjoy it. So, but yeah, Cats is way higher. 131 versus 815. Cats just easily wins. Although that was the first category, so maybe it'll get a little harder.
I will say I did like how Paul said the dog game, and David, you immediately Dog Park. I like that.
All right, second category. If you're a gamer, especially, you probably are familiar with this kind of versus, but pirates versus zombies. So, highest ranking game with pirate in the title, or highest ranking game with zombie in the title?
Huh. My board game knowledge is relatively limited, so I just feel like, I do have at least one game in each category, so that's good. It's one of those things. It's like I feel like the zombie theme is a lot more popular, maybe. But I know there's multiple pirate games, but not all of them have pirate in the name.
I will, just on caution's sake,
Huh.
remind you that the full word, what was the word you used to describe, like,
A conjugation?
yeah, conjugate? Yeah, well, conjugate means shortened, doesn't it?
No.
Oh, great. Conjugated words do not count. It must say pirate or zombie in full.
No.
The word you're thinking of is abbreviate. Abbreviate shortens the word.
Right, conjugate is changed, abbreviate is shortened.
Okay, am I going first or Andrew?
I'll mix it up. Andrew, or are you ready first, Andrew?
Almost. Okay, I have one in each, so we're good.
Okay. Well, you don't need one in each. You just need one in the highest those categories.
I know, but it was important for me to have the relative basis of comparison.
Okay, for guessing that. I appreciate that. Honestly, if you get either of these, I'd be very impressed. This one is significantly harder, I will say. Anyway, Andrew, which category do you think is higher? First off,
So I'm gonna stick with zombie.
okay.
The only one that jumps to my mind is Zombie Dice, which I cannot imagine being particularly high rated, but that's okay.
Well, it only matters if it's higher rated than other zombie games. Paul, what have you got?
I was gonna go with zombie also, and I would have gone with Zombicide.
You're probably going to have to pick a different game. I'll just tell you straight up. Zombicide does not have the word zombie in it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm going to be nice about it. I mean, I did warn you, but I feel like that was the trap I kind of set here. I didn't really set it. It was set by the rules I made.
Okay. I'll go with zombies.
Just straight up zombies.
Yeah, there's a game called Zombies.
How many exclamation marks are after those?
See, that game had like 8 expansions, so at least 8 exclamations.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Does each expansion add an exclamation mark? That would be hilarious if they did that.
I really hope it does, though. That'd be incredible.
I don't think that's true.
I don't either. I'm not even going to look up how many there are. I just know there's a bunch. All right. Well, you're both wrong.
Hey.
So this one got super tricky. But the highest pirate game is 328, and that is a game called Piraten Bridge, or better known as Skull King in the U.S. market.
What the heck?
I know, right? That's why I'd be impressed. The highest zombie game. Oh, I should have had you guess, actually. Andrew, what was your guess for highest pirate game, by the way?
Like Pirateer?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. But no.
I would have said Pirates Cove.
Pirates Cove? That probably will be the highest eventually. But as of right now, it doesn't beat 328. The highest zombie game right now is a game called Zombie Kids Evolution.
What?
Kids Evolution?
Yeah, I know. It's at 501. And for the record, Zombicide Black Plague is at 250. So that would have been the highest zombie game had it just included that E in Zombicide. Well, things are neck and neck at this point. Let's see if we can change that. The next category. It's a very famous movie. Actually, I don't know how famous this movie is, but I really liked it. It's Aliens versus Monsters.
Hey, okay.
So, does the word alien or does the word monster appear in the highest rated game? And what is the highest rated game in either category? That is the question we'll be answering soon. But will Paul or Andrew answer it?
Okay, so this is interesting. I'm once again doing the thing of, okay, I think I have a game on both categories. And now this is based on BGG ratings, right?
Yes.
So now I have to factor in potential Kickstarter bias for my game for Monster.
Interesting.
And then there's of course the chance that my thought for Alien doesn't even exist.
If you just wear a tinfoil hat, that should help with that.
Back to pondering as I don a tinfoil hat.
All right, Paul, are you ready?
Ready.
Andrew, let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, I'll say I'm ready.
Okay, we'll start with Paul. Paul, which category do you think is higher?
I gotta go with Aliens.
All right, and what is the highest Alien game?
Alien Frontier?
All right. Andrew, which category do you think is higher?
This is great. So, if I were to have chosen Alien, I would have said Alien Frontiers as well. But I'm gonna go with Monsters.
All right, and what is the highest monster game?
I'm gonna say, based on Kickstarter bias, I'm gonna guess Monster Hunter World, the board game.
Interesting. That may be the highest monster game eventually, but I think it's too recent to climb that high. It's funny you said Kickstarter bias because, well, anyway. Oh, our first split. How exciting.
Indeed.
The highest category is Monster.
Oh,
Andrew, you get the point. However, you did not get the right game. Paul, do you have a guess what the highest monster game is?
Monster Apocalypse?
No, this one's a little tricky, although once you hear it, it's pretty obvious. The highest ranking monster game is at 73. It is Kingdom Death Monster,
Oh, Kingdom Death Monster. Okay, yeah.
which is what I thought Andrew was alluding to when he said Kickstarter bias.
ah, ah, that is so funny. What Kickstarter, right? Oh, that's so funny. I could like, ugh. I played so much of that game too. That was like a year ago. So that's so funny.
The funny thing is, of the three of us, you and I have played that game, and David's the only one who hasn't. And we still got it wrong.
Alien Frontiers might have been the highest at one point. However, over the last, 10 years or so, it's kind of gone down a fair amount. The current highest Alien game is at 161, and it is the Legendary Encounters Alien.
Whoa.
Oh, the deck building one. Okay, got it.
That game took me 2 hours to assemble, essentially. They give you all the cards, but they give them to you in like 6 packs, and the packs are not sorted. And then the identification of, because they're each in chapters, there's 4 different Alien movies, so they're each in chapters, so you have to sort them by that. And the identification for it is very small and hard to read in the lower right corner of each card.
Oh no.
Yeah, and the art covers the whole card. It took hours. It was so annoying. The game's good, though.
That's so weird. They didn't sort it for you?
Right. It came in 5 packs. I don't know why it's printed in unsorted order and then put in packs and then sent out, but that's the way it was.
Well, the printing is like based on efficiency, like
Sure.
how many you need of each thing. So usually,
Oh boy.
for what I've seen in other companies, they'll sort it for you. Like someone actually manually sorts it, and then it ships.
Oh, yeah, they probably didn't. That would take a while because it took me a while.
So if it's like a smaller like publisher, or I guess I don't know who publishes Alien Encounters, but they did not manually sort it.
You'd think for efficiency's sake, then, all the cards that are the same would be printed and put next to each other. But no.
Oh, it's published by Upper Deck. So yeah, they're like a card company, not really a board game company. So they didn't sort it themselves. They didn't sort it themselves.
No, they did not. Essentially, I figured they printed out the sheets, just packed them together in whatever order. At least they were all there. That's the best part. That would have sucked after 2 hours. It'd be like, some of these cards are missing, or I got repeats and I don't have some. Anyway, Andrew, for getting Monster correct, you are now up 3-2. There's 2 more categories to go, and the next one is a little tribute to a now defunct company called Rooster Teeth that has recently gone under. For the most part, most of it's gone under. They still have a little bit, but essentially they're RIP for famous franchises such as Ruby, and of course, Red versus Blue. Which is higher, Red or Blue? Andrew, we're going to start with you, but are you ready?
But no. No, of course not.
Take some time. Paul, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
You don't often see colors as I mean, sometimes. And now, all right.
All right, Andrew, of Red and Blue, which category do you think has the higher game?
I'm gonna say red.
All right, and for Red, what is the highest Red game?
I think the only thing I could think of, there's like one that's like Mission for the Red Planet or something like that.
Mission Red Planet, yes.
Perfect.
Very good game.
That's my guess.
Okay. Paul, what have you decided?
I'm gonna guess blue.
Okay. And what is the highest blue game?
I would probably say Blue Lagoon by Canizia, unless I can say Azul, which is technically blue in Spanish.
Um,
Oh,
well, yeah, you know what? I'll allow it because why not? I didn't think of that, and that changes my list.
Oh, does that change your list?
Well, that would make it win, so that's changing the scores too.
Blue Lagoon is the like area control one, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Or area majority, really.
area majority. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'll do it the other way because, like, I'm going to give a bonus point for being creative, but I'm not going to radically change the entire format for that. The higher between red and blue, other than if you change the language, is red.
Oh, okay.
Red has the highest game, but it is not Mission Red Planet. Paul, do you have an idea what it might be?
Um, the only game I can think of is Red Cathedral.
That is exactly correct.
Ooh,
It came out relatively recently, so I was like,
It did, but it climbed really fast. It's currently at 195.
okay.
And then the highest game for blue is much further down the road. It is very hard to think of as well. It is Railroad Inc. Deep Blue.
oh my god.
Railroad Inc. Deep Blue? Is that the roll and write game?
Yeah. At 547.
That's so funny because Railroad Inc. has the red version too, right?
Yes,
That's hilarious.
it is. Yeah, I included because they are different. They're not expansions of each other or something like that. Yeah. Very weird. But bonus point for Paul for pointing out Azul. That is very creative, and I want to reward that.
And a second bonus point for guessing the red game correctly.
Oh no, you don't get that. That was extra. You were supposed to name the highest in the category you chose.
Oh, it's only. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you still get. So you each get a point, essentially. And so Andrew now has a 4-3 lead, going on the last category. The last category is time-old argument of nature versus nurture.
Ooh, but what games have those words in them?
Great question. That is not the last category. I'm just making it up.
Oh,
The answer to both is a game called Planted, a game of nature and nurture. Currently rated 1,625 on Board Game Geek. All right, we're having fun here. The last category is actually a different time-honored, all-time struggle of good versus evil.
the question still stands.
I have to think harder then. You don't actually have to name a game to name a category.
I gotta try. Okay,
It's just you won't get the bonus point, obviously.
right.
No, this is the hardest one. I did choose the hardest one for last, but I was curious to see in the board gaming world, does good or evil triumph?
Okay. I've thought of one game that has the word good in it.
Wow,
Nice.
Oh, okay. Two games.
impressive.
Can I even think of a game with the word evil in it? I don't.
To make it a little more exciting, although I don't think it'll matter, I will give you a chance to name the top game in both categories, no matter which one you pick, for a bonus point. Although it sounds like evil is having trouble finding a game.
Okay, yeah, I've picked.
All right. Should we start with Andrew because he's winning, or start with Paul because that's just how the order is? Who wants to go first?
All right. Well, at the very least, for picking category, I'm set on that one.
I'll go first.
All right, Paul. Which category have you chosen first off?
I gotta go with good.
Okay, going with good. Gotta go with good. And what game did you think of for? Well, let's go the opposite. What game did you think of for evil?
I remember a Kickstarter for Devil May Cry, and I remember liking that video game, and they made it into a board game. And it's the only thing I could think of that even remotely has evil in it, because you can't spell devil without evil.
That's right.
Oh, that's very good.
That is
So
good thinking.
yeah, and then for good, I could only think of good cop, bad cop. I was like, there's gotta be. I do know good cop, bad cop. That's it.
Yeah, that's a very good game. Andrew, which category have you chosen?
I vote for evil,
All right.
and I have nothing on the game names. I really don't.
Neither one.
I really don't. Nope.
All right. All right. Well, coming down to it then, the category with the highest game is good.
No way.
Yes. So now it is a tie. If Paul got either game correct, Paul's ahead and wins.
No.
but he did.
Okay.
Well, there was a weird thing about this because I thought trying to find Good Cop, Bad Cop because I didn't see it in the. Okay, it's ranked 2,237.
Yeah, it's a party game, so I didn't think it'd be ranked really high, but it's the only game I could think of with good in the title.
I neither, but like when I looked up good, like I just typed the word good and then went to the it didn't appear.
Oh, okay.
That's really weird. So I was worried it might be like in the low like 800s or something because party games can be like around there. Just One I think might be in the top 100. Anyway, whatever. All right, the lowest game with the word good in it. Sorry, the highest ranking game to the lowest number is a game called Oh My Goods.
Oh, okay. Oh my goods. Okay, yeah.
Oh my god.
That came out recently or within the last 5 years.
Is that recent?
I think so. Let me check. Oh my goods.
Because there's an expansion. There's like a necessary expansion that came out that made it a lot better, and that's when the game started taking off really. But like, I think it's older than that. Uwe Rosenberg, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, it's 2015. The original was 2015.
Yeah,
So I guess that's not within the last 5 years. Within the last 10 years. Okay.
yeah, and it's a basis of another Uwe Rosenberg game that I forgot the name of. I'll look it up later. Anyway, the highest evil game is simply A Touch of Evil, supernatural game.
Oh, okay. From Flying Frog, right.
Devil May Cry game, though, I'm going to look that up now, is ranked 7,601.
I remember seeing that on Kickstarter.
The highest devil game for fun is Deal with the Devil.
Oh, you like that game?
Well, I tried it once and I do like it. It's very unique.
Yeah, I think my friend got it on Kickstarter.
You need 4 people exactly, and it's a long teach. It's hilarious because, or once you start playing the game, you're not really able to answer questions people may have because there's a hidden role element to the game, and any questions will potentially reveal your role based on what question you're asking because each role does different things. It's very asymmetric. So, like, I think that's really cool, but when it's a heavy game and you can't ask rules in the middle, it hurts a bit.
Yeah. That's just a really tough learning curve.
Anyway, so in this legendary battle of Paul versus Andrew, it's a draw. Nothing is resolved. No one is better than anyone else.
The rivalry continues.
We're all still friends.
And that's our game. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you maybe learned something.
If you're listening on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to continue the conversation with us, you can do that at our Board Game Geek Guild Impromptu Board Gaming Podcast, guild number 4233. Or if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for the show, please email us at impromptuboardgamingpodcast@gmail.com. That's all one word, impromptuboardgamingpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you guys next time.